Welcome to Everyday Explained, your daily 20-minute dive into the fascinating hows and whys of the world around you. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm excited to help you discover something new. Let's get started.
Okay, let's dive in. Think about the microwave oven sitting in your kitchen. It's
Uh,
probably the most used appliance that you think about the least.
Totally. It's just there.
It heats your coffee, pops your corn, maybe rescues a defrosted meal. It just works. But what's actually happening inside that box? How does this seemingly simple piece of tech zap your food warm?
It really is a black box for most people, isn't it? We trust it. But the physics, the history, the engineering, it's all actually quite remarkable.
Yeah.
And our sources today, well, they offer a fantastic look under the hood. Everything from the fundamental science to, the surprising origin story and the safety standards.
Exactly. We've got a really interesting stack here. Insights on the physics from places like USC and ComSol, practical comparisons from Coast Appliances, and the official word on safety straight from the FDA.
Right.
So our mission is to pull the key nuggets from these, figure out what you really need to know, and give you, well, a complete picture of this everyday marvel.
Let's unpack it.
So the name itself gives us a hint. Microwave. What exactly are we talking about when we say microwaves in this context?
Good starting point.
Right.
According to the sources, microwaves are simply a type of electromagnetic radiation.
Okay, radiation. That word always sounds a bit scary.
It can, but don't let it scare you right away.
Yeah.
The electromagnetic spectrum includes everything, low energy, radio waves, visible light, then UV, X-rays, gamma rays.
Right.
Microwaves just fit in the middle there. Wavelengths from about 1 millimeter up to 1 meter, typically.
Okay, so they're kind of like cousins to radio waves and light, just
Yeah.
different vibes.
That's a good way to put it. And here's a critical distinction. The FDA source really highlights this. Microwaves are non-ionizing radiation. That's key.
Non-ionizing, what does that mean, practically?
It means they don't have enough energy to, knock electrons off atoms. Ionizing radiation, like X-rays, can do that, potentially damaging cells directly.
Ah, okay, so it can't mess with your DNA in the same way X-rays might.
Precisely. Non-ionizing radiation, like microwaves, visible light, radio waves, they just don't pack that kind of punch.
Yeah.
The potential harm from microwaves comes from heating tissue, which needs really high exposure levels. It's a different
No.
mechanism.
Gotcha. And microwaves aren't just for reheating sad desk lunches, right? The sources mention other uses.
Oh, absolutely. Beyond cooking, microwaves are fundamental to modern communications. Think satellite TV, your phone signal.
Right.
They're also vital for radar systems, which, spoiler alert, is actually how the whole cooking idea even came about.
No way. Okay, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, and industry uses them too for drying materials, vulcanizing rubber. They're incredibly versatile waves.
Fascinating how one type of wave has so many uses. But okay, back to the kitchen. How do these waves, the ones that travel through space or dry rubber, somehow heat up my leftover pasta? Where's the magic?
The magic is really just clever physics, according to the engineering sources. They point out 3 core things about microwaves for cooking. First, metal reflects them.
Right, no forks in the microwave. Got it.
Exactly. Second, they pass right through stuff like glass, paper, many plastics.
Okay.
Third, and this is the crucial bit, they get absorbed by food.
Absorbed. Okay, so that explains why the dish might stay cool while the food gets hot, and the metal thing explains the metal box construction.
Precisely. The metal inside bounces the waves around, creating this energy field, and the door has a special mesh screen that keeps the waves contained but lets you see in.
Clever. And where do the waves themselves come from? Inside the box.
That's the job of a component called a magnetron. It's basically a vacuum tube, uses electron beams and magnetic fields to generate the microwaves.
Magnetron. Sounds important.
It is. And most home ovens operate at a very specific frequency, 2.45 gigahertz.
2.45 gigahertz. Why so specific?
Well, the sources explain it was chosen partly because it was largely unused for communications back when ovens were developed. Plus, it's particularly good at interacting with something called polar molecules.
Polar molecules, like North and South poles, little
Yeah.
magnets.
A bit like that, yeah. Molecules like water, which is in almost all food, plus fats and sugars.
Huh?
They're polar. They have a slightly positive charge on one end, slightly negative on the other.
Okay.
Now, imagine these tiny polar molecules inside your food. The microwave energy is this oscillating electric field, flipping back and forth billions of times a second at that 2.45 gigahertz frequency.
Billions of times a second. That's hard to imagine.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And as this field flips, The polar molecules try to align themselves with it. They spin and rotate, trying to keep up.
So they're basically doing a chaotic super speed dance party in my lasagna.
That's a great analogy. And as they spin and jostle around in that crowded space, they bump into each other, create friction.
Friction equals heat.
Exactly. That rapid, friction-filled molecular mosh pit generates kinetic energy, which we feel as heat.
Aha, so the heat isn't coming from the air outside, like a regular oven, but from the friction within the food itself.
You got it. The heat is generated wherever the microwaves are absorbed by these polar molecules. It's a fundamental difference. Though for thicker foods, the sources do say heat conduction from those outer layers still plays a role in cooking the center.
Right. Heat has to travel inwards, too.
And crucially, for anyone still worried,
Yeah.
the microwave energy is converted into heat. It does not make your food radioactive or, contaminated with waves.
Good, because microwave doesn't need to be followed by and glowing.
Agreed. So we have these clever waves making molecules dance to generate heat. But where did this whole wild idea even come from? It feels like something someone designed, but the history sources say it was actually an accident.
Oh, I love an accidental discovery story. Lay it on me.
This one's a classic. It's 1946, right? An engineer named Percy Spencer at Raytheon is working on radar tech, specifically those magnetrons we just talked about.
The wave maker.
Exactly. So he's working near an active magnetron, and the story goes, he feels something odd. Reaches into his pocket.
Don't tell me.
The chocolate bar he'd been saving had melted.
A melted candy bar? That's the spark. That's brilliant. It makes you wonder what other great inventions were missed because someone just, ate the evidence.
True. But Spencer, being an engineer, saw more than just a messy pocket. He got curious, grabbed some popcorn kernels, put them near the magnetron. Pop. Then, famously, he tried an egg.
Oh, please tell me it exploded.
It did. All over a colleague's face, apparently.
Ouch. Okay, note to self and listeners. Maybe don't microwave raw eggs unless you're recreating history or cleaning up afterward.
Definitely a do not try this at home moment from the past. But yeah, Spencer quickly realized this microwave energy was causing rapid heating. Raytheon patented the cooking idea in '46.
And the first microwave oven was born straight away.
Well, the first commercial one, the Radarange, came out in 1947.
The Radarange sure sounds like something out of Buck Rogers.
It kind of looked like it too, and was priced like it. Huge, over 6 feet tall, weighed 750 pounds, cost thousands of bucks. Not exactly counter-friendly.
Yeah, that's more industrial kitchen or evil genius laboratory than my apartment.
Exactly. Took time to shrink the tech, refine it, make it affordable, make it safer. Raytheon introduced the first countertop home model in 1965. Still pricey, around $500 then, but a huge step.
Still a luxury item, though. When did they really become the kitchen staple they are today?
Acceptance grew steadily. The sources point to a tipping point in the mid-'70s. By '75, microwave sales in the U.S. actually surpassed gas range sales.
Wow.
And by '76, more U.S. homes had a microwave than a dishwasher. Convenience really won people over.
And now they're just everywhere, expected. But they haven't totally replaced traditional ovens, have they? There's a clear difference in what they're good for.
Absolutely. That Coast Appliances source lays out a great comparison. As we discussed, the heating method is totally different. Internal molecule wiggling versus external heat.
And that leads to very different cooking results.
Exactly. Microwaves are the undisputed champs of speed and energy efficiency for, small stuff for reheating. Need hot water fast. Microwave. Quick veggies. Microwave.
Roasting those veggies for an hour. Oven.
Right. Baked potato. Maybe 10 minutes in the microwave versus an hour plus in a conventional oven.
So for sheer speed and just heating things up, microwave wins.
For many tasks, yep. Reheating leftovers, defrosting, cooking things with lots of water veggies, rice, soup, even, scrambled eggs or those quick mug cakes.
And it's a big but for anything that needs that crispy skin or a browned crust.
That's where traditional ovens shine. The sources are clear. Ovens are way better for baking, roasting, grilling, getting those textures you just can't replicate in the standard microwave. Bread, pastries, a whole roast chicken.
Yeah.
You need that external heat for browning and crisping.
Makes sense.
Ovens are just generally more versatile for a wider range of cooking techniques, too.
So they really complement each other. Speed and convenience from the microwave, quality and versatility from the oven. It's not really a competition.
It's a tag team, a culinary partnership. Now, speaking of how they work, let's tackle the perennial microwave problem, the dreaded cold spot. Why is it so hard to get even heating?
Ah, yes. The bane of reheated pizza. You bite into a patch of lava right next to a chunk that's still basically frozen. What is going on there?
Okay, this is where the physics gets a bit more complex. The COMSOL analysis source dives into this. The key thing is uneven heating isn't necessarily a flaw in your oven. It's kind of an inherent result of how microwave energy interacts with the complexity of your food.
It's the food's fault. My pizza's betraying me.
Huh. Partly, maybe. And partly just the physics inside the oven cavity. First off, different parts of your food absorb microwave energy at different rates.
Right.
Think of that berry pie example from one source. The berries are full of water, they absorb energy super fast and get piping hot. The drier crust absorbs less, stays cooler longer.
Okay.
Same thing with defrosting. The parts that have thawed, the liquid water, heat up way faster than the parts that are still frozen solid ice.
Okay, so food isn't one uniform microwave sponge. Different bits react differently.
Exactly. And then, the energy inside the oven isn't uniform either. As the waves bounce off the metal walls, they interfere with each other, creating these patterns called standing waves.
Standing waves.
Yeah, it results in predictable areas of high energy intensity hotspots and areas of low energy intensity cold spots just sitting there inside the oven cavity.
So there are literally zones of more heat and less heat just hanging out in the box.
That's right. If you just left your food sitting still, parts would be constantly bombarded in hot spots, other parts would be chilling in cold spots, which is why most microwaves have.
The turntable, the spinning plate to the rescue.
Precisely. The turntable rotates the food, moving it continuously through these different hot and cold zones. It averages out the microwave exposure over time, promoting more even heating. It would be much worse without it.
Okay, that makes total sense. But you mentioned the food itself affects things too, like there was a potato simulation.
Yes. The COMSOL source used a potato as an example. It showed how the food itself can act as a sort of resonance cavity. In something fairly uniform like a potato, the simulation indicated the point of highest energy dissipation, where the most heat initially gets generated can actually be in the center.
Wait, hang on, so it can heat from the middle first sometimes? I thought it was outside in.
It seems the initial energy absorption can peak in the center in some cases, but then another factor kicks in, the food's thermal conductivity, how well heat spreads.
Ah.
And many foods, like that potato, are actually pretty bad at conducting heat. So even if the center gets hot from absorbing microwaves, that heat doesn't spread efficiently to the cooler outer parts through conduction.
So the heat gets generated internally, but then gets kind of trapped,
Yeah.
leading to hot centers and cold edges sometimes.
Essentially, yeah. And that trapped moisture can get superheated, turn to steam, build pressure, and that's when you get those sudden bursts or micro-explosions, when you reheat beans or thick sauce without stirring. Slam.
Yeah, oh yeah. The sauce volcano. Been there.
Exactly. So uneven heating is this complex dance between the food's ingredients, the standing waves in the oven, the turntable trying its best, and the food's own slow heat spreading. It's not personal, it's physics.
It really is. Now, with all this talk of waves and energy and exploding food, safety is obviously a big question. What does the FDA say about keeping these things safe?
Right, the FDA source is pretty clear here. They've been regulating microwave oven manufacturing since 1971. They set performance standards specifically to protect the public.
Okay, so there are rules.
Strict rules. And the key insight from the FDA is that for a properly working microwave oven, your biggest risk isn't some mysterious radiation leak causing long-term health problems. It's actually just good old-fashioned heat burns from the hot food or container.
That's a relief, but also, yeah, be careful taking things out. Ouch.
Exactly. The main standard the FDA sets is a limit on radiation leakage. No more than 5 milliwatts of microwave radiation per square centimeter, measured about 2 inches from the oven surface.
5 milliwatts, and the FDA considers that level safe.
Yes, they state this limit is far, far below the level known to cause harm. And the sources also note that microwave energy drops off really quickly with distance. Like, stand 20 inches away instead of 2 inches, and your exposure is down to about 1%.
Okay, so stepping back while it's running isn't a terrible idea, just as an extra precaution.
It's an easy added precaution, sure, though the standards and safety features are designed to keep leakage well within safe limits anyway, assuming the oven's in good condition. The FDA requires multiple independent interlock systems on the door.
Interlock systems, what do those do?
They're safety switches. Basically, they're designed to immediately cut power to the magnetron, stop the microwaves the instant the door latch is released, or the door's opened even slightly.
And there's more than one.
Usually 2 or 3, working independently. Plus, there's a monitoring system that should shut the oven down completely if one or both interlocks fail. It's layered safety.
So if the door is open, it should be physically impossible for the oven to actually produce microwaves.
Correct. And the FDA is very firm on this. If your microwave ever operates with the door open, stop using it immediately. Call the manufacturer or a qualified repair person. That's a serious safety failure.
Got it. What about those other health effects people sometimes worry about? Tissue heating, burns from the radiation itself, cataracts even.
Those potential effects, according to the sources, are linked to exposure to very high levels of microwave radiation, levels much, much higher than anything you'd encounter from a properly functioning oven that meets FDA standards.
Okay.
Injuries directly from the microwave radiation are extremely rare and usually involve improper repair or deliberate tampering with the safety systems. Again, the vast majority of injuries involving microwaves are just thermal burns from hot food, liquids, or steam.
So handle that hot plate with caution. Use oven mitts.
Always good advice. And regarding pacemakers, the FDA source mentions that while older models could potentially be affected by electronic interference, modern pacemakers are generally well shielded. But if you have one and you're concerned, definitely talk to your doctor.
Sensible. Okay, so beyond checking the door works right and maybe not pressing your face against the glass while it's nuking something, what other practical safety tips do the sources give us?
Well, number one is always follow the manufacturer's instructions for your specific model.
Right. Read the manual, maybe?
Yeah. Also, use only microwave-safe cookware. We talked about metal reflecting waves. Using metal bowls or foil improperly can cause sparks, anti-contain, potentially damage the oven.
Okay, microwave-safe dishes only.
Don't use an oven if the door itself, the hinges, the latch, or the seals around the door look damaged or warped. That's where leaks are most likely if they occur.
Check the seals. Got it.
And check your manual. Some ovens shouldn't be operated when empty. It can potentially damage the magnetron in some design.
Don't run it empty. Okay, what about that superheated water thing? That sounds scary.
Yes, the erupting water phenomenon. It's real. If you heat perfectly plain water in a very clean, smooth cup for too long, especially if it's undisturbed, it can get heated above boiling point without actually bubbling. It's called superheating. And then, if you disturb it like adding a spoonful of instant coffee or even just moving the cup, it can trigger sudden, violent boiling. Erupting boiling water. Not good.
Yikes. How do you avoid that?
The FDA suggests adding things like instant coffee, sugar, or even just a wooden stirrer before heating. These provide nucleation sites, little rough spots for bubbles to form normally, preventing the superheating state. Or just heat it for less time and stir carefully.
That's a genuinely useful tip. I've heard stories about people getting scalded by that.
It's a real, though avoidable risk. Finally, just keep the oven clean. Food spills and splatters can absorb microwave energy, potentially causing hot spots or even damage over time. Use water and mild detergent, nothing abrasive that could scratch the interior or damage those door seals.
Makes sense.
And yeah, just regularly inspect the door, the hinges, the seals. If something looks bent, cracked, or just wrong, probably best to get it checked out or contact the manufacturer.
So safety really comes down to a combination of robust design standards enforced by the FDA and then just basic user care and common sense.
Precisely. It's a piece of pretty complex technology that's been made remarkably safe and simple for everyday use through careful regulation and smart engineering.
Wow. Okay, so starting from just a box that heats food, we've pulled insights from the sources covering everything from invisible electromagnetic waves and molecule dance parties.
Don't forget the friction.
Right. And the friction heat to a surprisingly hot pocket adjacent accidental discovery.
Thanks, Percy Spencer.
How it measures up against old school ovens, the actual science behind those frustrating cold spots.
It's not you, it's the standing waves.
And the rigorous safety standards that mean basically you're far more likely to burn yourself on the soup than on any stray radiation.
It's quite a journey for something we just plop dinner into without a second thought, isn't it? The magic is really just fascinating, well-applied physics and some clever engineering.
And now, thanks to this deep dive into the sources, you know why your food behaves the way it does in there, the science behind the speed, and the diligent work that goes into making sure it's safe.
So next time you hear that familiar ding, maybe just pause for a second. Consider the billions of waves bouncing, the molecules vibrating, the turntable spinning, the safety interlock standing guard, and maybe give a little nod to the accidental discovery that started it all with a melted candy bar and one very surprised colleague.
Or maybe just appreciate dinner being ready in 2 minutes flat. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
And that wraps up today's episode of Everyday Explained. We love making sense of the world around you 5 days a week. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, Consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our next discovery. I'm Chris, and I'll catch you in the next one.